There was a time when they were the only game in town, but now radio stations have to fight hard for the hearts and the ears of listeners. Competition has never been fiercer. But in tonight's CTV success story, one Canadian seems to be tuned in to what people want. He's hit on a winning format, and it's catching on everywhere. Here's CTV's Jill McIntyre.
Over the buzz of a saw, there's the bass. 8 hours each workday, these men listen to the radio, their station of choice.
Generally Bob, 99. Good variety of music, lots of memories.
If you danced to a-ha in high school, pumped Duran Duran in your car, Bob FM's creator wants you to listen.
We're too young to be baby boomers, and we're too old to be Generation Xers. And we've always been this generation, I call them Generation Bob if you want, but they've always been caught between this, kind of no man's land.
A few years ago, Howard Kroger had a unique idea. He took his favorite mixtape from 20 years ago, added a few songs from the 90s, a few more from today, and created a radio format, an instant hit with adults aged 30 to 48.
99.9 Bob FM.
Since Bob's launch in Winnipeg in 2002, other radio stations have created their own personas. Today, there are Daves, Bens, Hanks, even an Alice, and one station with a name and a personality.
104.1 Jack FM. Jack, he's cocky, but a likable cockiness, a fun cockiness.
Fun. It describes the attitude and the music, and it's a big hit.
It came out of the gate big time in Vancouver, followed shortly by Calgary and Toronto.
The Canadian-created radio format has recently leaped into the U.S. market, again with success.
Usually the radio formats seem to start in the U.S. and come north of the border. This is really, truly a unique, I guess, cultural export.
We play what we want on Jack FM.
And as long as listeners continue to hear what they want, they'll continue tuning in. Jill McIntyre, CTV News, Winnipeg.
Well, briefly in some other news tonight, police have uncovered a large cache of illegal weapons.
We believe this is good news for consumers.
Canadian Radio, Television and Telecommunications Commission, otherwise known as the CRTC, is opening the door for satellite radio in Canada. What does that mean for our country's conventional stations?
When cable TV came in, conventional television was saying, hey, listen, why would anybody pay for television when they can watch it on our conventional stations for free? I think there's a lesson to be learned there.
And just like cable TV, for a fee of about $10 a month, satellite radio offers its subscribers their favorite genre of music anywhere, all the time, commercial free.
I think it's going to have an impact. The segmentation of the industry is already there. I mean, there's so many choices.
Over the past decade, commercial radio has had to face off against an array of new technology, like music TV, the internet, and the biggest threat so far, the iPod. But even with satellite radio entering the mix, broadcasters are confident local content will keep listeners tuned in.
I like hearing, who that song was by, and I like knowing that it's going to be, 25 degrees out tomorrow or 30 degrees out tomorrow, and it's going to, rain on Friday. I mean, those are all things that, all that local information that I want that I think is important. I'm getting that.
Lots of talk about the Moose and the Bombers. We get behind our team. We get behind our city.
Satellite radio is already up and running in the U.S., but it hasn't stolen away too many listeners yet. In a study done on 87 U.S. markets, only 6,600,000 people had made the switch, while 47 million still listen to conventional radio.
This is a time for us to, pull all the chops out and deliver some great programming to the listeners.
I honestly think that people are going to try it and probably come back.
Only time will tell if Winnipeggers prefer to dish out to dial in. It's expected satellite radio won't be available in Canada until at least next year. Adrian Silver, 8 Channel Wired.
by Canadians Winter Wonderland.
Well, years ago, some laughed at the thought of paying for television or water. Today, it's commonplace. Will the same happen to radio? Satellite radio has arrived, and as CTV's John Hendricks shows you, your radio may never be the same again.
For generations, if you wanted to drive and boogie, all you had to do was search the dial.
It's a mega music bobathon.
It's called free or terrestrial radio, but it's no longer the only game in town. Satellite radio has arrived.
The satellite units have been great for us so far. We've sold quite a bit of them. They're moving right off the shelves.
It's been available in the States for years. Now XM and Sirius satellite radio are available in Canada. The companies beam roughly 100 channels into your car or portable unit. The big benefit, a huge variety of music, sports, and entertainment without commercials.
Basically, it's just the best things in sliced bread.
Darcy Matsela bought an XM satellite radio in the States 2.5 years ago. He hasn't looked back since.
You got better sound quality, no commercials. You're not putting up with a lot of the BS, and it was just a lot more enjoyable.
That enjoyment comes with a price. You have to buy the equipment and then pay a monthly fee.
And then a subscription basis is for $12 a month. It's worth it.
Now, obviously, this is just the beginning of satellite radio, but is it the beginning of the end for terrestrial radio?
Terrestrial radio is not going away.
Bob FM program director Howard Kruger says, unlike satellite radio, his station offers local traffic, weather, and news.
I don't need to see them.
Still, he believes terrestrial radio will have to work hard to stay on top.
I think that competition will make us better, and we will prevail.
The battle for the hearts, minds, and ears of music.
If you don't like it, blame Jack. So who's Jack? Well, actually, as Sibylla Vargas explains, it's more of a what?
Records were already relics at radio stations when that Madonna single first hit the airwaves. But recently, the DJs are also disappearing. In their place, there's Jack.
93.1 Jack FM, playing what we want.
Jack's no DJ. Jack's not even a person. It's what industry observers are calling the fastest growing radio format to debut in the past decade. Jack was born in Vancouver, British Columbia with no DJs, just sarcastic pre-recorded voiceovers and a much larger playlist than most commercial radio formats. With an eclectic sound ranging from the Pet Shop Boys to the Pointer Sisters, Steely Dan to Sugar Ray, tried and true hit music from the 1970s through the 90s. Rick Dees, who hosts a nationally syndicated weekly Top 40 radio show, appreciates the competition's variety.
People used to come up to me and say, "Hey, Dees, you play the same 10 songs over and over and over." And I used to have to say, no, it's the same 9 songs over and over and over. So long live Jack.
Jack's success in Canada has inspired stations in the States, from New York to L.A., Philadelphia to Dallas, Chicago to Seattle, to adopt Jack's anything-goes approach to music. In Los Angeles, KCBS-FM recently segued from classic rock to Jack FM. And program director Kevin Weatherly insists, despite the seemingly random nature of its sound, there's a method in the madness.
You can hear anything at any time, but there's a lot of time, thought put into the flow and making sure that we're hitting different genres, different decades.
The development of Jack FM is a reflection of a radio audience that's increasingly turned to other sources for music, the internet, satellite radio, and the ever-popular iPod, with some stations telling listeners they're like their iPod on shuffle.
It's not meant to be arrogant or to come off as, hey, this is my little radio station, I'm playing what I want. That's insane. The idea at the end of the day is to get ratings.
While Jack's debut in Los Angeles made it the market's top-rated station for its target demographic, elsewhere listeners are less enthusiastic. In New York, where Jack replaced WCBS-FM's oldies format in June, the response was outrage.
Where's your cousin?
Their cousin is legendary radio personality cousin Brucey Morrow, one of the many DJs who was fired when Jack came to town.
You see, when radio is done properly, it has emotion. It's not bland. It's not boring. It's not in your face, as some of these formats are, like this Jack or Mel or Bob or Bill or Brucey, whatever they're calling the format. Radio has to have the emotion, has to have the ability to communicate. When you don't communicate, you don't have radio.
All I know is in the first 3 months, with no jocks, it's come on and, you know, and had a pretty good impact on a lot of established personalities in the market.
95.5 KLOS, playing Southern California's best classic rock.
Uncle Joe Benson is one of those personalities, unceremoniously told to hang up his headphones when Jack hit Los Angeles.
Jack and all its offshoots are a response to management not having a clue as to how to reach an audience.
Mindless chatter that's not compelling or entertaining is an irritant. And we wanted to come on and reduce the amount of irritants. At the same time, we're not void of personality.
If you got no requests, we've got no problems.
Jack's personality is actually created by writers and producers and given voice by Howard Kogan, who prefers to remain in the shadows behind the microphone.
Who is Jack as a character? He's not the life of the party, but he's the guy talking about the life of the party. Or making fun of the life of the party. I think we add a little flavor, you know? Come for the music and stay for the smart-ass comments.
Come back in 6 months or a year. See how many Jack stations are still around then.
Jack FM. Resistance is futile.
Let's see. That was Sibylla Vargas reporting. You will surely recognize my next guest, Mickey Dolenz, a former member of the group The Monkees. You know, he's third one over there, right? I can't see so well at this angle. What you may not know is he was also the former morning DJ of New York's WCBS FM, which switched to the Jack format. Good to see you, Mickey. So we should make it clear that you had a big party to celebrate your 100th broadcast, and then you got fired because Jack came to town. That had a sting. Did it?
Not really, no. I wasn't a professional radio man for the last 40 years. I was brought in as a personality. I had a great time. I have no regrets. I met a lot of wonderful people and had a lot of fun doing the show. I didn't like getting up at 4:30 in the morning.
No, of course, no one does. But that certainly isn't what your compatriots are saying. You have guys who've been in the business. I mean, you're lucky because you have other outlets to rely upon financially. These DJs who have spent 30, 40 years of their life doing this think that they don't view themselves as reducing an irritant, as one supporter of Jack referred to them.
Of course not. That's a little harsh. And of course, it's very early days. You know, Chow En-lai back in 1950 was asked what he thought the effect of the French Revolution would have, and he said, "It's too soon to tell." And I think that there's a lot of truth in that here. Jack's only been around about a year. I've had dinner parties longer than a year. It's very early days. It's a novelty still. And you know, we are a country and a nation and a civilization that loves our novelties for just a little while, and then all of a sudden something else comes along. It's way, way too early to see if this is going to really catch on and stay and have legs, as we say.
But you're a guy who grew up on radio, and I'm just curious if you think what America really wants, this younger demographic that everybody seems to be going after, wants to just listen to a jukebox, or do they want a personality?
Well, one of the things that drove this thing with Jack is what was mentioned earlier, is that there's so many other ways to get your music now. This is very similar to what the television industry went through back 20, 25, 30 years ago with cable television. Funnily enough, radio, being an earlier broadcast medium than television, never went through that kind of transition. It's always been, up until very recently, a broadcast medium. It was the only way you could get radio was through broadcast, terrestrial radio, as they say. But then satellite radio came along, and iPods, and the ability to be your own disc jockey, to go and burn your own disc and have it with you anywhere, anytime, any place, and basically play your own music. So the entire industry is being shook up by the fact that there are other ways to get your music. I have 30 or 40 channels on my television at home that I can plant, and I can turn on oldies. I can put on the 50s or the 60s or the 70s or the 80s or the 90s, or just 1 week in 1968.
Sure. But Mickey,
So-
you know, we all know that you got to change to stay relevant. But the bottom line, in the 25 seconds we have left, do you think, based on this latest development, radio as we once knew it 5 years ago is dead?
No, I don't think so. I think there will be even more diversity as there is on television. It was like saying, is broadcast television dead when cable came along? No, I don't. I think that it's going to be much more narrow casting. There's going to be stations and satellite stations for everybody and every possible taste, with disc jockeys, without disc jockeys, with music, without music, all kinds of different possibilities. I think that and I don't mind Jack. I like a lot of the music they were playing, as a matter of fact. And by the way,
Yeah.
it does have a disc jockey. It has that guy's voice, which
Yeah.
is a personality.
Well, that was a pretty politic answer. Maybe you'll end up getting another one of those DJ jobs again. Vicki Dolans, thanks for joining us tonight. Good luck to you.
Not at 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah, you don't want that. Thanks you all for joining us tonight. We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow night. Good night.